The massive view screen on the bridge of the USS Horizon showed the alien ship approaching. It looked like a giant beetle with glowing blue lines running across its dark shell. Commander Elaine Murphy stood with her hands behind her back, watching, as the ship moved closer to Earth's orbital station. "Status report," she said, her voice calm despite the tension in the air. Lieutenant Alan Brooks looked up from his console. "The Vexari ship is on course, Commander. They will dock in 15 minutes. Elaine nodded. After decades of searching the stars, humans had finally made contact with an alien race. The Vexari had sent signals 6 months ago, and now they were here for their first face-to-face meeting. As head of security for this historic event, Elaine felt the weight of all humanity on her shoulders. "Is the welcome team ready?" she asked. "Yes, Commander," said Jack Freeman, the communication specialist. He was young but skilled, with a talent for picking up language patterns. "Dr. White is waiting in the docking bay with the science team." Elaine looked around the bridge at her crew. They were the best Earth had to offer, chosen carefully for this mission. "Remember, everyone, we represent all of humanity today. Let's make a good first impression." The crew nodded, their faces serious. This was what they had trained for, what generations of space explorers had dreamed about. "Commander," called Alan, "they're sending a message." "On screen," Elaine ordered. The view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The Vexari had large compound eyes that shimmered with rainbow colors. Their face was covered in a hard shell that looked like polished amber. 2 antennae moved slowly on top of their head. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said through the translation system. Its voice sounded like several people talking at once. "I am Ambassador Ziktar of the Vexari Collective. We come in peace and look forward to our meeting." Elaine stepped forward. "Welcome, Ambassador Ziktar. I am Commander Elaine Murphy of the United Earth Space Command. We are honored by your visit and eager to begin our friendship." The alien's antennae twitched. "We will dock shortly. Please prepare for our arrival." The screen went dark. Elaine took a deep breath. "Jack, you're with me. Alan, monitor everything from here. If anything seems off, alert me immediately." "Yes, Commander," Alan said. Elaine and Jack left the bridge and walked through the curved hallways of the station toward the docking bay. Crew members they passed stood straighter, nodding respectfully. "Nervous?" Jack asked quietly. Elaine gave him a small smile. "Of course. But excited too. My grandfather used to tell me stories about aliens when I was little. He always said we weren't alone in the universe. Wish he could see this day." The docking bay was a large room with high ceilings and a sealed airlock door that connected to visiting ships. Dr. Susan White stood with her science team, checking equipment one last time. She was the station's leading xenobiologist, an expert in theoretical alien life forms. Now she would finally meet the real thing. "Dr. White," Elaine said, "are you ready?" Susan looked up from her tablet. "As ready as anyone can be to meet an alien species, Commander." Her eyes showed both fear and excitement. "My team has reviewed all the data the Vexari sent about their biology. They breathe oxygen like us, but their blood is green and contains copper instead of iron." The station's AI voice came over the speakers. "Attention all personnel. Vexari ship docking procedure commencing. Stand by." They felt a slight vibration as the alien ship connected to the station. The airlock status light turned from red to green. "This is it," Elaine said. She straightened her uniform and nodded to the security team standing along the walls. "Open the airlock." With a hiss of air, the large metal door slid open. For a moment, there was only darkness, then movement. The aliens walked forward, 6 of them led by one wearing elaborate decorations on its shell. The Vexari were about 7 feet tall, walking on 2 legs. Their bodies were covered in the same amber-colored shell seen on their faces. They had 4 arms, each ending in hands with 3 long fingers. They moved with surprising grace for creatures that looked so hard and stiff. "Ambassador Ziktar," Elaine said, stepping forward. "Welcome to Earth Orbital Station 1. The lead alien made a gesture with its upper arms, bringing them together in front of its chest. "Commander Murphy, The Vexari Collective greets Earth and its people. We have traveled far to meet you. We are honored by your journey, Elaine replied, following the diplomatic phrases she had memorized. Please come this way. We have prepared a welcome ceremony. She led the aliens through the station to a large conference room decorated with symbols of Earth culture and images of space exploration. The aliens' compound eyes darted everywhere, taking in every detail. What the humans didn't know was that the Vexari had met many alien species before. They had a secret system to rank each new species they found. Some were useful for trade. Some had valuable knowledge. Some were threats to be watched carefully. The Vexari saw themselves as the smartest beings in the galaxy and expected humans to be simple creatures they could easily understand. Ambassador Ziktar spoke to the gathered humans. For many cycles, we have observed your world from afar. Your radio signals reached our listening posts. We watched your first steps into space. Now, we seek to build a bridge between our peoples. The translation device on Susan's tablet showed that the aliens' actual words were closer to. We have studied your primitive attempts at space travel and find you worthy of basic contact. Susan frowned slightly but kept quiet. This was not the time to point out translation issues. Elaine stepped forward with a small box. Ambassador, we offer these gifts as symbols of Earth's friendship. She opened it to reveal a crystal globe of Earth, seeds from rare plants, and a data crystal containing Earth music and art. As the ambassador reached for the gifts, one of the Vexari assistants moved forward too quickly. It bumped into the table, knocking over equipment. The assistant tried to catch a falling scanner but grabbed it wrong. The sharp edge cut into its hand. Green liquid dripped onto the table. The scent was strange, like copper and something sweet. Every human in the room reacted the same way. Their pupils widened instantly. Their breathing changed. They became very still, like predators spotting prey. The Vexari froze. On their world, only hunting creatures showed this response to blood. Their own eyes did not change like this. They had never seen an entire group react this way together, as if connected by some invisible signal. Ambassador Ziktar stepped back, slightly. The injured assistant was quickly taken away by other Vexari. Elaine noticed the alien's reaction and forced herself to relax. Please forgive our response, Ambassador. Humans have an automatic reaction to the sight of blood. It's a survival mechanism from our evolutionary past. But the ambassador was making notes on a small device. The Vexari were rethinking everything they thought they knew about humans. These creatures had the eyes of hunters, changing to let in more light when they sensed blood. The Vexari had not expected this. Humans had seemed so peaceful in their messages. We should continue our ceremony, Elaine said, trying to move past the awkward moment. But she could tell something had changed. The aliens were watching them all differently now. In his private thoughts, Ambassador Ziktar was sending an urgent message to the Vexari mothership. The humans show predator responses. Proceed with caution. They may be more dangerous than we believed. The Vexari mothership hung in space like a giant insect nest, its surface covered with glowing patterns that pulsed with energy. Inside, Ambassador Ziktar stood before the Council of Six, the leaders of the Vexari expedition to Earth. Play the recording again, said first speaker Vex Mal, the oldest and most respected of the council. The hologram in the center of the room showed the moment from the meeting when the Vexari assistant cut himself. The view zoomed in on the humans' faces, capturing how their round pupils expanded suddenly at the scent of blood. This response is seen only in apex predators, said second speaker Kisvor, her antennae twitching with concern. It allows maximum light into the eye for hunting wounded prey. Yet these humans show no other predatory features, argued third speaker Xantir. They have flat teeth, no claws, weak muscles compared to many species we have encountered. Ziktar stepped forward. That is what makes them dangerous. They do not look like predators, yet they respond like them. And they do it as a group, all at once, as if linked by some silent signal. The council members clicked their mandibles, a sign of deep thought among the Vexari. We must reassess our classification of humans, First speaker Vexmal decided. Continue your observation, Ambassador. Learn their true nature before we proceed with any knowledge exchange. Back on the Earth orbital station, Dr. Susan White worked late in her lab. The samples the Vexari had given as cultural exchange included small pieces of their technology and biological materials. Susan studied a piece of the amber-like shell under a powerful microscope. Computer, compare this structure to Earth species, she said. The screen filled with data. Material shows similarities to insect exoskeletons, but with molecular bonding not found in Earth life forms. Susan made notes on her tablet. The Vexari were fascinating, but something about them made her uneasy. Their biology suggested they had evolved without natural predators. She wondered what that would mean for their psychology. The lab door opened, and Commander Murphy walked in. With her was Frank Daniels, the station's security chief. He was a solid man with a calm presence that made people feel safe. "What have you found, Doctor?" Elaine asked. Susan showed them the screens of data. The Vexari evolved very differently from us. Their shells aren't just protection, they're sensing organs too. And their compound eyes can see light frequencies. We can't. Frank frowned. Can they see in the dark better than us? Not exactly, Susan explained. They see different things. Where we might see one color, they might see 10 different shades. But they don't track movement as well as we do. Elaine nodded. That explains why they seemed startled when people moved quickly during the meeting. There's something else, Susan said, lowering her voice. Their biology suggests they evolved as the dominant species on their planet. No natural predators, no real threats. That can lead to a certain way of thinking. What way? Frank asked. They might not understand. Fear the way we do. They might not understand why a species would develop defensive behaviors. Across the station, Lieutenant Alan Brooks and technology specialist Olivia Garcia worked in the communications center. They had been tasked with reviewing all messages sent between Earth and the Vexari ship. Look at this, Alan said, pointing to his screen. There's a pattern of encrypted data embedded in the standard transmissions. Olivia leaned closer. The Vexari said all their messages would be open. Why hide data? They worked together using the station's advanced computers to break the simple encryption. When they succeeded, they looked at each other with concern. We need to tell the commander, Alan said. 1 hour later, Elaine, Frank, Susan, Alan, and Olivia met in a secure room. The Vexari are sending reports to a location beyond our solar system, Alan explained. They're describing humans as a potential threat species with predatory characteristics. Frank crossed his arms. They think we're dangerous? It's more complicated, Susan said. Based on their biology, they probably classify all species they meet as either predator or prey. They don't understand that there could be something in between. Elaine paced the room. What are they planning? Should we confront them? Not yet, Susan advised. We need more information. The second diplomatic meeting is tomorrow. Let's watch them carefully. The next day, humans and Vexari gathered again. This time, Ambassador Ziktar brought what he called cultural exchange exercises. These were actually clever tests, disguised as games and activities. This virtual simulator will show emergency scenarios, Ziktar explained. Please respond as you normally would. This helps us understand human problem solving. The humans put on the virtual reality headsets. They didn't know the Vexari were watching their responses carefully, measuring heart rates and pupil dilation. One scenario, a ship was damaged. The humans had to decide whether to save themselves or risk danger to help others. Every human chose to help, even when it meant personal risk. In another test, the humans had to allocate limited resources. They consistently shared equally, rather than taking the most for themselves. The Vexari observers chittered among themselves, confused by these results. After the testing, Ziktar spoke privately with his assistant. They show predator responses to blood, but protective behaviors toward others. This makes no sense in our classification system. Perhaps they are deceptive, the assistant suggested. No, Ziktar said. Their physiological responses can't be faked. They truly care about protecting others, even at risk to themselves. Later that evening, Elaine met with her team again. They were testing us, she said. Those weren't cultural exchanges. They were psychological experiments. Susan nodded. I think they're trying to figure out if we're a threat. Their biology and evolution are so different from ours that they can't understand how we can have both predator and protector instincts. What should we do? Asked Frank. Keep participating, Elaine decided. But we need to show them who we really are. The Vexari need to understand that humans can be fierce when threatened, but what really drives us is protecting our own. Alan's communicator beeped. His face turned serious as he read the message. Commander, we just received word from Earth. They've detected unusual energy readings from the far side of the moon. It looks like there might be more Vexari ships hiding there. Everyone fell silent. The first contact situation had just become more complicated. They're watching us, Frank said quietly. Studying us before they decide what to do. Elaine stood, determination in her eyes. Then let's make sure they understand exactly what kind of species they're dealing with. Humans aren't simple predators or prey. We're something they've never encountered before. Outside the windows of the station, Earth glowed blue and green against the blackness of space. Around the table, the humans made plans, not knowing that soon an accident would test their nature in ways no simulation could, and show the Vexari exactly what happened when human pupils dilated at the scent of blood. 3 weeks passed since the first meeting between humans and the Vexari. On the surface, relations seemed to improve. Scientists from both species worked together in the orbital station's labs, studying each other's technology and biology. But underneath the friendly exchanges, tension remained. Commander Elaine Murphy sat in her office reviewing security reports. Earth's governments were divided on how to handle the discovery of hidden Vexari ships. Some wanted to confront the AOA aliens directly. Others feared starting a conflict with a technologically advanced species. Elaine's door chimed. Come in, she called. Frank Daniels entered, looking tired. New report from Earth Defense. They've spotted 3 more Vexari ships entering the solar system. They're keeping their distance, but they're definitely watching us. Elaine sighed. Any word from the diplomatic team? They're still advising caution. Keep playing along. Keep learning about them. Frank sat down across from her. The scientists have made progress understanding their technology. Susan says some of their medical tools could help a lot of people on Earth. If they decide to share them, Elaine said. The station's alarm suddenly blared, making them both jump. To their feet. Emergency in Laboratory Section C, announced the station's AI. Hull breach detected. Emergency protocols activated. Elaine grabbed her emergency tablet as she ran from the office with Frank close behind. The tablet showed a schematic of the station with a red warning light flashing in one section. That's where the joint research team is working today, Frank said as they sprinted down the corridor. They reached the emergency bulkhead where station crew were gathering with equipment. Lieutenant Alan Brooks was already there, directing the response team. Report, Elaine demanded. Micrometeorite strike, Alan explained quickly. It hit at just the right angle to penetrate the hull. The inner and outer doors sealed automatically, but we have 6 people trapped inside, 2 humans and 4 Vexari. Life signs? Still registering, but the air is leaking out. We have maybe 20 minutes before. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Elaine made a fast decision. We need to get them out. Prep the emergency suits. As the team worked, a group of Vexari led by Ambassador Ziktar arrived. His antennae were moving rapidly, a sign of distress. 4 of our scientists are inside, he said through his translator. We have brought our emergency equipment to assist. Elaine nodded. We'll work together. My people know this station best, but your technology might help. The next minutes were tense as humans and Vexari worked side by side. Engineers cut through the sealed inner door, while others prepared to patch the hull breach from outside. We're through, called a technician finally. But the atmosphere is almost gone. Anyone going in needs a full suit. Elaine didn't hesitate. I'm going in. Frank, you coordinate from here. She put on an emergency spacesuit while Alan and another crew member did the same. The Vexari ambassador selected 2 of his people to join them. 3 minutes of air, warned the technician. Get in, get them, get out. The emergency team entered the damaged lab. The scene inside was chaos. Equipment floated in the near-zero gravity as the last wisps of air escaped through a small hole in the outer wall. Emergency patches had slowed the leak, but hadn't stopped it. Elaine spotted one of the humans, Dr. Kimberly Bell, working frantically over a fallen Vexari. Despite her own injuries, a deep cut on her arm was leaking blood that formed floating red globules in the air. She was trying to seal a crack in the alien's exoskeleton. Dr. Bell, Elaine called through her suit radio. We need to go now. Kimberly looked up, her face pale from blood loss. This Vexari scientist is losing pressure through his shell. I can't move him yet. Elaine moved closer and saw that Kimberly had used emergency sealant from a repair kit to try to fix the alien's damaged exoskeleton. Green Vexari blood mixed with her own red blood in the zero gravity around them. The Vexari team will handle him, Elaine said. You're injured. But Kimberly shook her head. His internal pressure is different from ours. I figured out how to adjust the sealant. Just give me 30 more seconds. Elaine looked at Kimberly's eyes. Her pupils were fully dilated, her breathing fast. The classic human stress response. Yet instead of fleeing to save herself, she was working to save an alien. The Vexari emergency team had frozen watching this scene. Their compound eyes reflected the floating drops of mixed red and green blood. Through their faceplates, Elaine could see their antennae pressed flat against their heads in what she had learned was a gesture of extreme surprise. 15 seconds left of breathable air, warned Alan. Almost done, Kimberly said, her hands moving quickly despite her injury. The patch on the Vexari scientist's shell hardened, stopping the leak of green fluid. Now we can move him, she said. The rescue team quickly gathered the injured. Alan helped Kimberly while Elaine and the others assisted the Vexari. They made it through the door just as the last of the air disappeared. In the medical bay, human and Vexari doctors worked side by side to treat the injured. Kimberly needed a blood transfusion. 2 of the Vexari required specialized care for damage to their exoskeletons. After ensuring everyone was stable, Elaine stepped out of the medical bay to find Ambassador Ziktar waiting for her. You're Dr. Bell, he said, his voice strange even through the translator. We observed her physiological state. Her pupils were fully dilated, her heart rate elevated. All signs of what your kind calls fight-or-flight response. Elaine nodded. Yes, that's how humans react to danger. Yet she did not flee. Ziktar continued. She stayed to help one not of her kind, though it risked her life. And you, Commander. When you saw the blood, both human and Vexari, your pupils dilated as well. But you too focused on rescue, not escape. Elaine realized this was an important moment. Ambassador, when humans sense blood or danger, our bodies prepare for action. Sometimes that means fighting, sometimes fleeing, but often it means protecting others. The ambassador's antennae moved slowly. Your species responds to blood like hunters, he said. Yet you use this response to protect, not to hunt. This is not in our experience. We evolved as social hunters, Elaine explained. Our ancestors had to work together to survive. Those who protected the group lived to pass on their traits. Even to protect other species. Elaine smiled slightly. We're adaptable. Once we recognize something as part of our group, our instinct is to protect it. The ambassador was silent for a long moment. Then he made a gesture Elaine hadn't seen before, touching his upper right hand to the center of his chest. I must report this to my superiors. It changes our understanding of your kind. As he walked away, Elaine felt a small hope growing. Perhaps the Vexari were beginning to see that humans were neither simple predators nor prey, but something more complex. Beings whose instincts could drive them to protect even those unlike themselves. Frank joined her in the corridor. The injured will recover. Excellent work in there. It wasn't me, Elaine said. It was Kimberly Bell. I think she just changed how the Vexari see us. In his private chamber, Ambassador Ziktar recorded a message for the Vexari Council. The human's predatory response, the dilated pupils, increased heart rate, serves a different function than we thought. They become more alert not to attack but to protect. We may need a new classification for this species. They are unlike any we have encountered before. On the Vexari mothership, the Council of Six gathered in their circular chamber. Holographic displays showed data from the recent incident on the human space station. Ambassador Ziktar stood in the center, giving his report. The human female, called Bell, displayed all physical signs of predatory response, he explained. Dilated pupils, increased heart rate, heightened breathing. Yet she used this state not to fight or flee, but to save one of our scientists. First speaker Vex Miles. Antennae twitched in agitation. This contradicts our understanding of biological responses. Predator reactions serve predator functions. Humans appear to be different, Ziktar said. They evolved as social hunters. Their bodies prepare for action when they sense blood or danger, but their minds decide how to use that energy. Second speaker. Kizvor flicked her upper limbs in the Vexari gesture of disagreement. No species we have encountered in 12 star systems shows this trait. Predators remain predators. I propose a new classification, Ziktar said boldly. Humans are what I call guardian predators, beings whose predatory instincts are channeled primarily into protective functions. The council chamber filled with the clicking sounds of agitated Vexari debating this new idea. For a species that organized the universe into clear categories, this suggestion was revolutionary and disturbing. Third speaker. Zantir finally raised all 4 hands for silence. The fleet commander requests guidance. 3 more of our ships have arrived in this system. Should they prepare defensive measures against these humans? Not yet, first speaker Vexmal decided. We need more information. Ambassador, continue your observation. Find out if this protective behavior extends only to their own kind or truly includes others. Back on the orbital station, Jack Freeman worked with a team of linguists in a small communication lab. They had been analyzing the original Vexari language beyond what came through the translation devices. Look at this pattern, Jack said, pointing to his screen. When they say friend or ally in their language, they use modifiers that actually mean useful or non-threatening. Dr. Patricia Miller, the lead linguist, nodded. Their language doesn't have words for relationships based on mutual care or affection. Everything is categorized by function or threat level. That explains why they're so confused by us, Jack said. They don't have concepts for cooperation, unless it's based on dominance or usefulness. In another part of the station, Dr. Susan White shared her findings with Commander Murphy and Security Chief Daniels. The Vexari evolved from solitary hunters who formed groups only through strict dominance hierarchies, she explained. Their biology shows no evidence of pair bonding or familial attachment like we see in mammals. So they can't understand why we would risk ourselves for others, Frank asked. It's completely outside their evolutionary experience, Susan confirmed. Their young are self-sufficient from birth. They never developed the protective instincts that come from raising helpless offspring. Elaine considered this information. We need to help them understand us better, or this misunderstanding could lead to serious problems. Her tablet beeped with an alert. The Vexari have requested another cultural exchange event tonight. They want to focus on what they call stress responses across species. Frank frowned. They're still testing us. Yes, Elaine agreed. But this is our chance to show them who we really are. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Alan Brooks and Olivia Garcia monitored communications between the Vexari mothership and their fleet. They've brought at least 5 ships into the solar system now, Alan said, pointing to the tracking data. They're keeping their distance, but they could reach Earth in hours if they wanted to. Olivia looked worried. Do you think they see us as a threat? I think they don't know what to make of us, Alan replied. And that might be more dangerous than if they just saw us as enemies. At least then, they'd know how to react. That evening, humans and Vexari gathered in the station's large observation lounge. The Earth hung like a blue jewel in the blackness beyond the windows. Ambassador Ziktar had brought several scientists, including one who specialized in what they called comparative xenobiology. This scientist, named Trizban, approached Dr. Kimberly Bell, who had recovered from her injuries during the emergency. "We all wish to understand your response during the crisis," Trizban said through his translator. "Your biology showed predator state activation, yet your behavior showed protection-focused action." Kimberly smiled. "That's just being human. We help each other. It's how we survived as a species." "But the one you helped was not human," Trizban pointed out. "Doesn't matter," Kimberly said simply. "He needed help. I could give it." The Vexari scientist seemed confused. This is not rational from an evolutionary perspective. Across the room, Elaine watched this exchange carefully. The other humans mingled with the Vexari, explaining aspects of Earth culture and asking questions about Vexari society. Suddenly, Elaine noticed something strange. One of the Vexari scientists had moved to a quiet corner. He was holding a small tool. Before anyone could stop him, he used the tool to make a cut in his own arm. Green blood welled from the wound. The Vexari was watching the humans in the room, recording their responses. Elaine realized this was a test. The alien had deliberately injured himself to observe human reactions under controlled conditions. Several humans noticed the injured Vexari and moved toward him with concerned expressions. Dr. Susan White reached him first. "You're hurt," she said, already pulling a medical kit from her pocket. "Let me help you." The Vexari scientist's antennae trembled. "Your pupils have dilated," he observed. "Your heart rate has increased, yet you move to help, not to attack." Susan looked confused as she applied a bandage to his arm. "Of course. Why would I attack you?" More humans gathered around, offering assistance. None showed fear or aggression, only concern. The Vexari scientist looked from face to face, seeing the same dilated pupils in each human, the same focused attention. "Ambassador," Ziktar approached Elaine, who had been watching from a distance. "You understand what he did," the ambassador said. "It wasn't a question. He injured himself to test us," Elaine replied calmly, "to see how we would react to the sight and smell of blood in a controlled setting." "Are you angry?" Elaine considered the question. "No. I understand why you need to know more about us, but there are safer ways to learn. You could have just asked." The ambassador made a gesture of acknowledgement. "My scientist reports an important discovery. He says your pupils dilate to blood not as hunters sensing prey, but as hunters identifying threats to your social group. The blood triggers heightened awareness and protective response." "That's a good way to put it," Elaine agreed. "This concept is difficult for us," Ziktar admitted. "Our species does not form emotional bonds. We cooperate when useful, compete when necessary." "Humans are different," Elaine said. "We survive through connection and cooperation. Our strongest instinct isn't to hunt or to flee. It's to protect our group, and we can choose who belongs to that group." The ambassador's compound eyes reflected the Earth glowing in the window behind Elaine. "Including aliens who are very different from you?" Elaine smiled. "Especially them. Differences make us stronger as a group." As the event concluded, the Vexari scientist who had cut himself approached Ambassador Ziktar. "I must update our classification of humans," he said urgently. "They are not the predators we feared. They are something we have never encountered before." On his way back to the mothership, Ambassador Ziktar composed a message to the fleet. "Commander, delay any defensive preparations. We are dealing with a truly unique species. Their physical responses may resemble those of predators, but their behavior follows patterns we have not seen before. They may be the most unusual and most valuable allies we have ever encountered." 6 Vexari ships now orbited Earth, their dark shapes visible from the ground as moving stars in the night sky. Governments around the world watched nervously as diplomats tried to determine if these visitors came in peace or posed a threat. On the orbital station, Commander Elaine Murphy faced a difficult decision. The trust between humans and Vexari was fragile but growing. Yet the increasing number of alien ships made Earth's leaders nervous. Some wanted to activate planetary defense systems. Others argued for patience. "We need to show them who we really are," Elaine told her team during an emergency meeting. "Not just tell them, but demonstrate it in a way they can't misinterpret." "How do we do that?" asked Frank Daniels. Elaine looked around at her trusted crew, Frank, Alan, Susan, Jack, Olivia, and Kimberly. "I have an idea, but it's risky. We invite the Vexari to join us in a real emergency response exercise. Not a simulation, but actual teamwork in a dangerous environment. The abandoned research station in orbit around Mars," Alan suggested. "It has working life support but needs repairs. We could set up challenges that both species would have to solve together." "That might work," Susan agreed. The Vexari respond, "To practical demonstrations better than explanations. Their learning is experience-based." Elaine nodded. "I'll propose it to Ambassador Ziktar today." Later in the diplomatic meeting room, Elaine explained her plan to the ambassador. "A joint exercise where our people work together, facing real challenges but in a controlled environment. Both sides would need to cooperate to succeed." Ziktar's antennae moved thoughtfully. "Interesting. My superiors have been demanding more information about human capabilities and intentions. This could provide valuable data." "It would help us understand each other better," Elaine said. "And build trust between our species." The ambassador agreed, and preparations began immediately. 2 days later, a mixed team of humans and Vexari boarded a transport ship bound for the abandoned Mars research station. Elaine led the human team, which included Alan, Olivia, and several engineers and scientists. Ambassador Ziktar brought 6 Vexari, including General Vex Corral, a high-ranking military officer who had arrived with the latest ships. "The general wants to see humans in action himself," Ziktar explained privately to Elaine. "His opinion will greatly influence our future relations." The trip to Mars took 3 days. During this time, the two species began to work together, preparing equipment and planning for the challenges ahead. The atmosphere was cautious but cooperative. General Vex Corral observed everything, his compound eyes missing nothing. Unlike other Vexari, he wore decorations that looked like battle scars on his exoskeleton. His movements were precise and powerful. "Your species has accomplished much, despite your soft bodies," he said to Elaine on the 3rd day. "But physical strength is not the only measure of a species' worth. We are more interested in how you think, how you solve problems." "That's what this exercise is about," Elaine replied. "Showing rather than telling." The abandoned research station orbited Mars like a forgotten toy. Once a proud achievement of human space exploration, it had been replaced by newer facilities. Now its corridors were dark and cold, with only emergency systems still functioning. The joint team docked and entered, carefully, their mission: restore power, fix life support systems, and complete a series of tasks that would require both human and Vexari abilities. Elaine paired each human with a Vexari partner. She worked with General Vexa Corral, while Alan was paired with a Vexari engineer. They spread throughout the station following the exercise plan. For several hours, everything went smoothly. The humans showed creativity and adaptability, while the Vexari contributed precision and specialized knowledge. Power was restored to most sections, and the life support systems began to function again. Then, without warning, a real emergency struck. A power surge in the old systems caused a cascade failure. Part of the station's outer ring began to break apart, metal groaning as seals failed. "Emergency protocols," Elaine shouted into her communicator. "Everyone to the central hub." Team members responded quickly, making their way to the safe zone. But when everyone gathered, 2 were missing: a Vexari scientist and General Vex Corral. "They're in Section 12, reported the Vexari engineer, checking a life sign detector. "The section is losing pressure." "The structural supports are failing," Alan added, looking at the station schematics. "We have minutes before that whole section breaks away." Elaine didn't hesitate. "Alan, Olivia, with me. We're going to get them." Ambassador Zigtar's antennae shot up in alarm. That section is too dangerous. You would risk your lives for our people? That's what humans do, Elaine said simply, already checking her emergency suit. The three humans raced through the station's corridors, following Alan's directions. They reached a sealed bulkhead that separated them from the damaged section. Atmosphere beyond this point is almost gone, Alan warned, temperatures dropping fast. Suit up, Elaine ordered. They put on their helmets and oxygen tanks. Ready? Elaine asked. Her teammates nodded. Then let's go. They opened the bulkhead and pushed into the failing section. Emergency lights flashed red and the air was thin enough that their suits activated automatically. The metal walls creaked and groaned around them. They found the Vexari scientist first, trapped under fallen equipment. Olivia stayed to help him while Elaine and Alan pressed on, searching for the general. They found him in a small control room, trying to stabilize the section's systems. When they entered, he looked up in surprise. You must evacuate, he said, through his communication device. This section will detach in 2 minutes. Not without you, Elaine replied, moving to help him. I am attempting to save this section, the general explained. If it breaks away, the damage may spread to other parts of the station. Alan quickly assessed the controls. He's right, but we can't fix it from here. We need to activate the emergency separation system from the main control room. That would sacrifice this section but save the rest, Elaine realized. The general's compound eyes focused on them. You came back for us knowing the danger. Of course we did, Elaine said. Now, let's go, all of us, together. They rushed back to where Olivia waited with the injured Vexari. The group made their way through the failing section as pieces of the ceiling began to fall around them. They reached the bulkhead, just as the shaking became violent. Safe. In the central hub, Alan raced to the control room and activated the emergency separation system. Through the viewing windows, they watched as the damaged section detached cleanly, floating away from the station. In the aftermath, human and Vexari medical personnel treated the injured. The emergency had been real, not planned, but it had demonstrated human nature more clearly than any controlled exercise could have. General Vexa Corral approached Elaine. Your pupils were fully dilated when you found me. Your heart rate was elevated. All the signs your kind shows before attacking. Or before risking everything to save someone, Elaine replied. The general's antennae moved in a pattern she hadn't seen before. Now I understand. Your predatory features serve a different purpose than ours. When we sense danger, we fight or flee to save ourselves. When you sense danger, you can choose to protect others instead. That's being human, Elaine said. We're stronger together than alone. The general touched all 4 of his hands together in a formal gesture. The Vexari fleet will withdraw to a respectful distance. We will tell our leaders that humans are not the predators we feared, but something new in our experience. You are guardians, and perhaps, someday, allies. As the joint team returned to Earth, the relationship between humans and Vexari had fundamentally changed. Where there had been fear and suspicion, now there was the beginning of understanding and respect. 1 year later, a joint human-Vexari outpost had been established in Earth orbit. Scientists, diplomats, and explorers from both species worked side by side, learning from each other and preparing for joint missions to the stars. When a deep space sensor detected an unknown ship approaching at high speed, the outpost went on alert. The approaching vessel did not respond to hails and showed signs of hostile intent. In the command center, Commander Elaine Murphy stood beside Ambassador Zigtar. As the alarm sounded, the humans' pupils dilated in unison. This time the Vexari did not recoil in fear but stood taller. Defensive positions, Elaine ordered calmly. Humans and Vexari moved together with practiced precision, each using their unique abilities. Where once there had been misunderstanding, now there was partnership. The stars beyond the windows held countless mysteries and dangers, but they would face them together. Predators who had chosen to become protectors, guardians of each other and the worlds they called home.